One. The talk in Philadelphia this week, it's all about the running game. It's been extinct. We're going to get into it today. Welcome on in to the Bitter Birds Lounge. Brennan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. Week number 2. Eagles fall to the Chiefs, but it's time to take a look at the All-22 film. We're going to get into the running game right now. Brennan Albert, how you doing, bro?
Good, Adrian. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. So can't wait to get into the film with you. I mean, obviously, we know your background, coaching background, training the likes of Cam Newton, DeAndre Hopkins at the IMG Academy. So let's get this thing started, man. So let's get into the running game first. And before we show the first clip that I want to get into, some of my findings. So the Eagles ran the ball 7 times along the edges for 38 yards. That's a 5.43 yards per carry average. 6 times for 14 yards up the middle, only 2.33 yards per carry. So as you can see, the strength of the offensive line running outside the tackles, outside zone, the sweep play. Kelsey pulling, the strength of your offensive line are your tackles. So obviously that's what they do best. The problem with that, it's not the strength of your running backs, because Darren Sproles is 34 years old and he can't be carrying the ball 20 to 25 times a game. But we're going to get into the first play I'm going to get into right now. And this was an outside zone play in the first quarter. This was one run by Sproles. And this is one of those, unbalanced lines that Doug Peterson likes to have. He had Lane Johnson and Peters on the left side of the formation. And we're going to get into it right now. You try and figure out how to do the share screen again. There we go. Pull this bad boy up.
All right. All right. So this is Adrian. You said it perfectly here, bud. We get unbalanced left. So when we get the end zone view, that's really going to show exactly what this term unbalanced means.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I went back to the beginning.
No problem, Adrian.
Being a little slow here. We'll just kind of go from the beginning because it's acting up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll talk real quick about what the term unbalanced means, or you might hear also called tackle over. So when we get the end zone view, we'll get a really nice peek at it. So just as a layman's term, start from the beginning here, guys. We have center who obviously has the ball. He's in the middle. He's usually flanked by guards on either side. Adrian, pause it for me, please. And then we have our tackles being our edge 2 men. Now, if we look here, playing the right tackle position is actually Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
So Peters is now over here lined up essentially as a tight end. So that's kind of a funky situation. Now, typically studies have shown, guys, and even if you go back and you watch Eagles games or really any NFL game or a college game, high school game, wherever the back is in the gun, he is most likely going to run the ball opposite of his side. So for a defensive side, he's on the left. We know he's most likely to run the ball on the right. Also, I'm going to put money down and say, hey, we're probably not going to run the ball behind Zach Ertz blocking. We're probably more likely to run the ball between 2 of our tackles. So we know that. This is a really nice job here as far as what we get from Lane Johnson. He's going to pull here, and he's going to get outside man, which is going to be D Ford here. This is helpful, guys, in an outside zone play because as we look here, this big defensive end who's down on the side here of Johnson and Peters he's already lined up outside shade of Lane Johnson. No problem. This is going to allow Peters a nice angle to wash down this defensive end. Johnson is now able to pull around him, kick out forward because they have a nice blocking angle. So this is going to put us now one-on-one with our guard here. Looks like big 96. And then we're going to have a double team down between Brooks and then also Kelsey down on the other. And then pretty much Ertz is just going to make sure he doesn't let anyone really rip across his face. So, Adrian, if you go ahead and hit play and hit that slow motion play, I really love this. Yeah. And then hit play for me, brother.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. You can see.
We got a tip last week from one of our commenters about that.
It was awesome. I really appreciate that. But, yeah, I mean, we get a really nice pull here. Lane Johnson does a good job of steering D Ford outside of him. Now, look at Kelsey here.
Kelsey, yeah. And this is what he does.
just moving people in space. This is awesome. And he's moving Johnson here, who's been an all-pro for years. This was an awesome play. But Adrian, this goes back to exactly what you were talking about. Really successful running the ball outside, not inside. But this was a good play to look at.
Yeah. All right, next play I want to get into. Okay, so let's see. Now I wanted to get into a play that when they were running up the middle. Looks like 10:09 of the fourth quarter is the play we want to look at here. Because the Eagles, they couldn't block up the middle. And LeGarrette Blount didn't get one carry all game. That was the fourth quarter, right? Oh, man, it's hard to find these plays, Brendan.
If you click on the all plays, Adrian, you actually can sort by quarter too.
There we go. Oh, that's perfect. All right, so it looks like this is the play right here.
Yep. And then if we get the end zone view, Adrian, that's another really good view for inside.
Yeah. I'll just kind of wait, just because it seems like when you try to go ahead, it kind of stalls. So
no problem. We get a pull here. Okay, so this would be counted as a counter play. Talked about that earlier about how typically – pause it for me, please, Adrian. Thank you, sir. We talked about earlier how, when the back is one side, he's most likely going to the other. Well, we call this a counter because even if you kind of can see here – and I'm sorry, Adrian, can you hop back to the first angle?
Yeah.
You kind of get an idea as a defensive coordinator or a defensive player what the tendency is. So when you look at this play, when you're going to see here Smallwood line up, you're going to notice that he's about 2 yards behind Carson. So as we can see here, they're lining up pretty much about even, right? I mean, pretty even here. So most likely we're going to say, okay, ball's going away. Perfect. So we can see how he lined up even.
Ooh.
Now, if you go to that fourth quarter play.
Why the hell did that just happen?
That's okay. Hey, that worked out really well because it shows guys exactly feet are pretty much even. Sproles' foot was probably about 8 inches behind of Carson's. But now if we look here in this fourth quarter play and we look how they're going to line up, you pause it, Adrian. We can see here clear as day, this is about 1.5 feet, right? I mean, we can see clear as day, feet are behind. So why are the feet behind? Why is there a discrepancy? Well, Adrian, as you hit play here, you watch the feet here of our running back. He's going to have to take a little gather step, and he does that, pause it, because it allows the guards to pull through to lead him. So this is why it's our counter play. It's going to give the running back an opportunity, the extra 18 inches, gives him a better opportunity to run vertical opposed to running horizontal. So it depends on what type of level that quarterback and running back are on. If they're pretty even, most likely ball is going to come across because it's hard for Carson to turn quick and then run it. Now, if he's behind, all he needs to do is kind of like a drop set in basketball, and now it's an easy 90-degree angle for that handoff. So when we look here at the end zone view, we can kind of get a better idea of exactly what the blocking scheme was set for this.
Yeah, I love the end zone view on the blocking schemes.
It's fantastic. All right, Adrian. So as we look here, okay, we know here, hey, we got Trey here in the backfield, all right, and we pretty much have an under front, or excuse me, not an under front. We have a head up situation here, so we know, hey, Kelsey, you're going to be one-on-one with the nose tackle. That's just what it's going to be, okay? Now, Adrian, if we go that slow motion play, I love this. And then
that's
pause.
Logan, I believe, against Kelsey.
Pause right now, okay?
Oh, no, that's 98.
If we look at it here, David Johnson's playing that middle backer position. I talked about this in last week's show, guys. Read the fat men. That's what linebackers are taught. That's what safeties are taught. Read the fat boys up front. Those offensive linemen, they don't want to run if they don't have to. So if they're running toward the direction, ball's probably going that way. So as what Derek Johnson's seeing, he's seeing a down block here from Brooks, meaning he's going to double down on this nose. And he also sees here we get a pull from the guard, and we're also going to get a pull backside here from Trey Burton. So this tells me right away as a middle linebacker, ball's getting run to my left. Because there's no reason these big linemen are going to double down to their left and then pull around to their right. it's definitely going to happen. This is a really, really nice play here by Johnson. And honestly, as you watch it here, Johnson, he's going to be blocked by Trey Burton, our left guard here. He's going to come out and supposed to get Houston. And Johnson just beats him to the spot. Just flat out beats him to the spot, gets low on the block, causes Smallwood to have to do a little hurdle, and nothing good's going to happen. And this was just a simple situation of, Trey, you got to get him. You got to get to the spot first, because if you're late to the spot, even if he blocks Derek Johnson, it's going to cause Smallwood to have to stutter and have to make a move, and it's just adding too much work for the back. You have to clear him out of the hole here, and he wasn't able to do it. So this is a great example of why an inside run play was a result of nearly nothing.
Yeah. All right, let's get into a couple Carson Wentz plays. So we're going to get into one where he has a good read, and then we're going to get into one where it's a bad read. So a little good Carson, bad Carson, good cop, bad cop on Bitter Birds right now. So 6:02 mark of the first quarter.
Yep.
Take a look at this bad boy right here. Now this wound up being a holding penalty on the Chiefs.
Okay. So we have trips right. All right, trips right open. Now pause it, Adrian. All right, so what this motion has done. This motion has given us the middle of the field open, because as you see here, right on the top of, I believe that's Alshon here in the slot.
Yep.
We can see the linebacker. He's flying out. So what this is telling us is this is man coverage, because it wouldn't be zone coverage, because there's no reason in zone that a middle linebacker would run across the field. He would just pass it off to one of the corners or nickels to take the outside flat route. So Carson does a good job here of understanding, okay, I got man defense here. Sorry about that, guys. So his first read here is Ertz. All right, so his first read is Ertz, and he realizes, he's getting rerouted here. Okay, probably not going to be there. Now, underneath, we have a drive concept. We talked about this. The Eagles ran this last week, and honestly, almost every NFL team is going to run a drive concept a ton. Drive concept is we have a bait, and the bait here looks like it's going to be Nelson running that 3 to 5 yard under route, and then we're going to have Alshon here running a 10 to 12 over route. So it's just a high-low read. The idea is to try to get those linebackers to bite on the speed there of Nelson underneath, so Carson can throw the ball right behind his head. So far, we get a nice clean pocket. Everything is looking great so far, Adrian. So go ahead and hit play for me in slow motion again. Thank you, brother. As we see here,
that wasn't slow motion.
we'll get a good look at it from the end zone view too. As we see here, and pause it for me, Adrian.
There we go. It's going slow now.
Okay, we can see here that Lane Johnson.
Pause, or you want to go slow?
We can play it. Lane Johnson's about 3 yards outside of the hash. Watch where Houston pushes him. See how Lane's starting to shrink back into the pocket?
Yeah.
This gives Carson nowhere to step up. Carson makes the right read. He realizes that Alshon is going to be open there on the deep crossing route, but because Lane Johnson gets pushed back into the lap, Carson doesn't have the ability to step up and get his feet underneath him. And when you see the end zone view, you're going to see Carson have to kind of hitch in his throw motion a little bit, and it's because Lane Johnson's getting pushed into his lap. It's a good read here by Carson, but Houston pushed Lane Johnson around a lot in this game. It didn't cause a ton of pressure as much as the interior things like Chris Jones had havoc on him. But Lane Johnson here getting pushed into the throwing lane, or in at least to the throwing motion of Carson, is going to cause Carson here to kind of hitch in his throw. So as we see here, okay, he's coming off his first read. I'm ready. Oh, I got to pause it. I got to hold back. Now I got to rip it. You can't have your quarterback getting pushed to the ground in the NFL, especially not if you want to be able to make good throws. It's just a situation. Carson makes the right read. He just didn't have the time. This is more fault of Lane Johnson than it is on Carson Wentz.
Yep. And it's something that Doug Peterson was doing a lot of on Sunday, was matching up Alshon Jeffrey in the slot against Phillip Gaines. And I talked about, in the preview show, I thought Aguilar was going to have a big game because he was the one that I thought was going to get matched up against Gaines. But he put Jeffrey in there, and Jeffrey kind of feasted 7 catches, 91 yards, obviously. So I will give Doug Peterson the benefit of the doubt there, but not much else.
Yeah, and Alshon led the team in targets too. Had 13 targets. Then we had Ertz with 10. And you mentioned Nelson. Nelson only had 3 targets. Smith had 8 targets. So the love was certainly heavy in the slot here.
That Smallwood motioning out.
Okay, so pause it, Adrian. Let's talk about this again. We saw the motion to empty. We saw the linebacker fly out. What's this tell us? Man defense here, okay? All likelihood this is going to be man defense. Okay, great. So now, Adrian, if we play it in slow motion, what I want you guys to see, and Adrian, pause it as soon as he catches the ball. Carson doesn't really take a drop here, as you'll see. He pretty much is catching and releasing it. So this is a very simple West Coast style catch and release, get the ball out quick. And this is really effective against teams who have really good pass rushers like Kansas City does. Mm-hmm. So Carson knows pre-snap, hey, it's man defense. Awesome. So I know I'm in a quick game situation, meaning I'm not taking a drop. The offensive line is expecting that. Sometimes you'll even see the offensive line cut block in situations like this. But because it's a quick catch and release throw, the offensive line is expecting the ball to come out. And these type of situations where Carson can kind of run around sometimes, and he's athletic enough to do it, that's the good news. But sometimes if you do that and the offensive line is expecting the ball to come out, they're not taking a lot of drop in their steps. They're not taking a deep kick slide. Mm-hmm. So in turn, what can happen is this can turn into holding penalties very easily because the offensive line is assuming the ball is going to come out quick, so they don't need to get depth in their drop here. But as we play this, Adrian, we see here a simple concept. We get double slants outside, and then we get a quick out to the flat by Ertz. Now, if you pause it, Adrian, right about now,
you can see Ertz wide open. And you saw initially, too, like while you were watching the game. That's why I put this play in here.
Yep. And this is a misread. And it happens, okay? Every NFL quarterback is going to make reads. But obviously, as a quarterback like Carson, we want to start seeing less and less misreads. And I think we are, but this is a very simple concept. It really was. I mean, he's open, clear as day, and then he misreads it. Okay, fine. Now, if we pause it here, Adrian, okay, now we're starting to get into that scramble drill. So in the scramble drill for receivers, what they're taught is, hey, if you're the guy who has the deepest route, then you're going to go deepest. If you're a guy in the middle, you're going to stay in the middle. If you're a short route, you're going to stay short. To try to give a high, medium, low action option for a quarterback in the scramble. As we see here with the safety here is reading eyes. Smallwood's going to be wide open in the back corner here. Carson certainly has the strongest arm. If he's going to throw this ball, if he's going to throw it deep, he absolutely can throw a touchdown here to Smallwood as long as he puts the ball around that C. That's not really that difficult to throw across his body. He can easily set his feet and throw it. Maybe some people aren't loving it, but I've seen Carson make this throw before, so I know he can do it.
Yeah.
So if we play it, Adrian, we see, okay, Smallwood's wide open. All right, scramble back this way. Okay, so Smallwood rolls with it. Probably still a little difficult throw for him there. Not impossible because Carson has the arm, but he doesn't do it. Then he skips one in here at Ertz. So, this play, it should have been – first it should have been a gain of like 5. Then it should have been a touchdown, and then it's an incompletion. So this was one of those plays where I think Carson missed the read a little bit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, we can't get access to the third quarter on some of these plays because I wanted to get into some of Wentz and whether he was holding on to the ball too long because he was hesitating or whether or not the receivers were covered. So this will be something I look at afterwards. Unfortunately, right now the third quarter isn't really working. So next, I want to get into the turnover and the play that really changed the landscape of the game. So we all know about it. The good old screen that Doug Peterson loves to call on 3rd and long. And before I get to this play, just your thoughts on that. 3rd and 10 and longer, it seems like the tendency of Doug Peterson is to call a screenplay. You have Carson Wentz. You just got a bunch of weapons. Why aren't you throwing beyond the sticks?
I can argue for and I can argue against it. If I'm going to argue for the screenplay, my mind's probably going to tell me we probably don't have the offensive line, and I don't feel confident that we're going to be able to block long enough. Maybe we're in a situation like they were here. It's 4-down territory. Hey, cut it in half. Get to 4th and 4 kind of thing, and you're in a good spot. But if I'm arguing against it, I'm with you, Adrian. You just signed Alshon Jeffrey. You brought Torrey Smith in. We know Carson's continuing to develop. Zach Ertz is a nice weapon. So there is a lot of weapons again around you. And we know the Chiefs are going to play a ton of man cover one defense. So really all you're asking here is, can one of my receivers win?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that that's their belief, but he decided to go screenplay here, maybe try to outthink the defense.
Yep. And this was one of those, weirder looking screens because we talked about it during the text last night. You only had one offensive lineman releasing on this play. So we see it here in full time. As you can just see, a complete disaster. Let's see if we can go back. Of course, it stalls. NFL Game Pass has to get some of its things fixed up here a little bit.
Yeah, it was a real bummer that we weren't able to play any of the third quarter plays.
Yeah, because I had a lot of clips from the third quarter. Where is this at? 9:23. Oh, it's all plays again. Jeez. Here we go.
Let's go slow-mo here. Yeah.
All
right. So when me and Adrian were texting back and forth, we both were like, is this a screenplay? And ultimately both of us said, let's wait till we see what the receivers do. So let's look at the top three receivers here, okay? The top three receivers really make no real effort to run any type of route. They pretty much all just run straight up the field and are going to kind of get in a stock blocking position.
Can I butt in real quick?
Absolutely. Okay.
So you see Jeffrey here, right? And I just talked about how he's been on Phillip Gaines all day in the slot. And then you see him out here. And when I was watching this live, I saw Jeffrey out here, and I'm like, oh man, they are going screen. Because that's a giveaway. That's a tell right there. What do you think about that?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a complete giveaway because I still have enough faith in Alshon to be able to win on one-on-one against corners in the NFL. But I understand why you would think that. All of a sudden he's not in the slot where he spent most of his game. A little interesting. That's fair.
And considering he's probably might be one of the better blockers in the team.
That I will give you, yes.
That's what I'm getting at there.
Yep.
So you're going to put one of your better blockers out there, on a screenplay.
Right. We're not putting Nelson or Torrey Smith, guys we know who aren't really great blockers. Now, Adrian, you said it best, and let's pause it here, okay? You said it best, hey, they're going to keep their offensive line in. They're keeping their center and they're keeping their tackle in. Two ways to think about it. If you're someone who has really dynamic offensive linemen and you're confident quarterbacks can be able to get the ball out quick, you can release these guys. They can give a quick slap move to force those offense or defensive linemen out of the throwing lane and get them upfield quickly. Or if you want to make sure and you're not 100% confident that your offensive line is going to be able to give a good enough slap move, you keep them in. Yeah. Eagles decide to keep him in here. Release the guard Brooks here. And as we kind of look at it here, if this ball is completed to Sproles is probably going to have a one-on-one situation with either a corner or a safety here. And then we know Sproles is damn good enough in space to make one guy miss and go to the house. Yeah. So it does look promising here. But here's what's not promising. I talked about Lane Johnson earlier. Same thing here. Lane Johnson does not do a good enough job against Justin Houston to keep Houston out of the throwing lane. As we watch, and Adrian, you can hit play now, bud. As we watch here, look how Houston's going to keep shrinking the window, and now he's able to get his body into the throwing lane, and ultimately that causes the interception here. In the in screen game, the big thing for offensive linemen is making sure that those defensive linemen get out of the throwing window because it's get them out of the throwing window quick and go release, get the backers. Lane Johnson didn't do a good job at this.
Yep. Now let's take a look at the end zone view here once it gets kind of going here. We'll kind of slow it down.
Okay, so if you pause it here, let's look where Justin Houston is. Houston is pretty darn far out from the hash. He's about 5 to 6 yards. Now, Adrian, if you play it here, let's look and see where Justin Houston is going to make contact with the ball. And Justin Houston, by the way, he's looked healthy his first 2 weeks. He looks freaking unbelievable. Yeah. So to be fair, he is nasty. He gets a wide set, but now look, all of a sudden we're on skates. Mm-hmm. Now he's in contact with the ball about 1 yard to 2 yards outside of the hash. That means, Lane Johnson just got too passive, allowed him to keep eating cushion, and now it's shrinking that throwing window. So it's just a batted ball and it turns into an interception. Not a problem on Carson. This is not his fault, but this is on Lane Johnson for not getting in the throwing window.
Yeah, I agree. I heard a couple of people complaining that it was Carson's fault, but this was not Carson's fault. This was on
No.
Lane Johnson.
Yep.
All right, let's get into Isaac Seumalo. So, my first question before I get into the play: 4 sacks allowed. Can't get any push in the running game. Are you making a switch at left guard on Sunday?
Ooh, I'm very close to it. I'm very close to it. And I'll tell you this, the Chiefs' defensive front is very good, and the Giants is very good too. So I am on very, very thin ice with Isaac. I'm completely okay if he's not in the starting lineup. But I have nothing else in practice. I'm sure he's not getting all the first-team reps.
So here we go.
Now, Isaac's going to get a lot of solo situations with Jones here, and Jones is one of the better interior pass rushers in the NFL. And too often on 2 of the sacks that Jones has here on Isaac, both times Isaac just overextends in the play. We just see him starting to overextend with his hands. His body isn't underneath him. And Jones is one of the better defensive linemen. He realizes that the offensive lineman's off balance, does a rip move once, and I think a swim move the second time that's able to get inside there.
All right, here we go. Finally, it's going slow. Man, this is really acting up today, this Game Pass. But, yeah, I want to get into that too because, Chris Jones is a great football player. I don't think people realize that too.
No, I mean, he was a top 10 talent when he came out and went in the second round for some off-the-field stuff. Similar to Malik McDowell went from Michigan State. But you can see it right there, right? I mean, we can see here that Isaac, he's stumbling. His feet are not underneath him all the way. And just never give the inside away. That's as simple as it is the offensive line. If you're going to get beat outside. Don't get beat inside. That's the shortest distance between him and the quarterback.
I love how everyone's standing as the ball's on the ground, too. It's like they're not even alert as to what's going on.
This was just a bad look because even when you see the end zone view, it's an even uglier view. You get 3 offensive linemen pretty much just standing there.
Yes. Yeah, probably should have just went to the end zone view right from the beginning. Here we go.
Yeah, we can see it here. What I don't love about this is Kelsey doesn't really give any help.
Nope.
And the thing is if you know the scouting report, hey, of the interior linemen, Jones is far more of a threat than Branch, I think, is the other interior lineman in this situation. So for me, I don't understand why Kelsey doesn't kind of slide and help him a little more. Now he sees, okay, Brooks has got him, and I don't.
That's so bad.
It's the Olay block, and then you see all 3 guys here on the left side thinking, "Damn, that sucks."
The ball, no one's doing anything.
Falls out, and then Isaac just falls, misses it miserably. Luckily, Lane Johnson turned around at the right time and is able to fall on it, but not a good look here.
Oh man! And then here we go. Later on in the fourth quarter, Seumalo gives up a pair of sacks late.
And the problem I had is it's the exact same situation. And the end zone view is going to be show this exactly how it really is, the exact same.
Yeah, we'll kind of go fast through the first wave, and then we'll go through the slow on the end zone. So
all pro NFL defensive linemen like Chandler or Jones here, he's going to get his. I mean, that's going to happen. These all pro guys, but you can't let them beat you at the exact same situation. Adrian, pause it here for me, okay? There's 2 things I want us to look at here. One, it's the exact same look. Kelsey, you got to know your biggest threat is to your left, not to your right. It's not like either one of these interior linemen are inside shade of the guards. They're both outside shade of them. So there's not like an immediate threat. So now you say, okay, well, which player is better? Obviously, it's Jones. He's been wreaking havoc on you all game. This is the fourth quarter. So you have to have your first peak be there. Unless, and I don't think this is the call, but unless his thought is, I have my back picking up my left inside A-gap protection, which wouldn't make sense because it's Sproles, and I don't think Sproles is going to win. But that's the only other rational thought I might have, because as you hit play on this slow, Adrian, you'll see that Kelsey's first view is to his right, which I don't get, because on the exact same play earlier in the game, you gave up a sack. It's the exact same thing. Overextends himself, his feet aren't underneath him, gets beat inside here. Carson's got no chance. So I don't understand. Is this a fault on Kelsey for not helping? Is this a fault on Sproles for not being there? Is it a poor communication that one of them assumed the other was doing it? But either way, Isaac got beat like a drum against an all-pro all game here.
And Kansas City was doing a fantastic job scheming because they were putting him on an island against Chris Jones. And Chris Jones was just manhandling him all game long. And that's what was going on.
Yeah, no question.
All right, one more play. This is a Fletcher Cox sack in the second quarter.
Yep.
Fletcher Cox, deep penetration into the backfield as always. You love it when I say that.
There's so many bad puns. Like my favorite one was when Chris Long insisted in the preseason to stand next to Fletcher Cox. Like
Long Cox.
Yeah, I was just like, God, it's so immature, but it is really funny.
Dude, you should hear me on the post game show. So I get into it, man. Deep and brutal penetration.
So we talked about this with Jim Schwartz, how he's not a guy who wants to blitz a lot. He will run a lot of stunts. So, Adrian, as soon as this ball snapped, pause it here. Okay, so as we look at the front here, the front says, okay, we essentially have 5 down linemen, 2 linebackers sniffing around. Okay, now watch what's going to happen. Brandon Graham's going to drop, and our opposite edge player is going to drop. So it's still a 4-man rush. So It's not a blitz. It's a stunt, but it's not a blitz. And that's what Jim Schwartz wants to do. He wants to get pressure with 4. Doesn't mean with 4 down linemen. He just wants to get pressure with 4. And I talked about this in the Redskins game. Brandon Graham is athletic enough to be able to do small drops, and obviously we know the other defensive end in this pass set is Vinny Curry. Vinny Curry's not dropping anywhere, okay? Newsflash, Vinny Curry's not gonna cover anyone in space. Not that Brandon Graham's going to be electric, but in the zone, I obviously trust Brandon Graham a lot more than Vinny Curry's big
Absolutely.
butt. So we see here, and what I want you guys to look in on is the trade of Timmy Jarnigan paying off huge dividends here. Watch him rip across the face of the center, and this is one of the better centers in the NFL too.
Yeah.
Right across the face of him, forces the guard to take him, and then we get the Hicks stunning right behind it. And you'll get a better view of this. Adrian, you can play full speed here, but you'll get a much better view of this play when we look at the end zone view.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll slow it down a little bit.
Yep. And as we see it here, same thing I talked about. Timmy Jarnigan is going to do a really nice job of ripping right across the face of the center. And the center knows, okay, I got to pass it off to my guard. So he's passing off to his guard. And now the delay blitz of Hicks coming into the A-gap right behind him here forces now that guard to say, okay, well, now I have to take him, which means Fletcher Cox is one-on-one.
Yep.
And in Philly, with that situation, you're going to win far more times than you're going to lose. So that's what Jim Schwartz wants to do. He doesn't want to blitz, but he wants to find situations where he can get guys like Fletcher Cox in one-on-one situations with anyone, and he's probably going to win, very similar to what Kansas City was doing with Jones, just obviously more of the interior side of things. I
must say, nothing like watching some deep penetration in slow motion. I'm here all day. I'm here all day.
This is your channel. This is your channel.
Well, that's it. That's the last play. That's the last one we got on the agenda. So, hey, once again, though, it's like 40 minutes in, it seems like. So we kind of started around 5 o'clock. So that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to say about this game? Is there anything else you noticed?
You know, the only things to notice is maybe that Eagles' interior offensive line is a bigger problem than we thought. I think, preseason, Adrian, both you and me, we had the Eagles' offensive line as a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, but it hasn't looked dynamic, especially certainly this Kansas City game that did not look great, but this is one of the better front sevens in the NFL. So let's not crucify them right off the bat, but it is fair to kind of circle, especially the left guard situation and center situation, and say maybe we are a little more uncertain. And you don't get an off week. This is the big one. You get to play get to play the Giants now. Giants very similar, very good front 4. So we're going to see how they're going to handle there. The good news is New York has looked nothing but disappointing so far. I think the Eagles should win this one here, but this obviously is a big one this weekend.
And one more question before we depart. Would you have at least tried, to run the ball with LeGarrette Blount?
I would have. I mean, Why not? That's kind of my thought process.
It baffles me that they didn't.
And I want to, because I want to think about guys like Jones. I don't want his first step to be constant pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. I mean, you can't win in the NFL unless your quarterback's name is Rodgers or Brady and you're throwing the ball 40 plus times a game. It just can't happen. You
Wentz
can't
gonna get hurt one of these days.
You can't do it. I mean, eventually this is now, unfortunately, the Eagles are a much better offense and much better offensive line. But putting your quarterback in situations where he's throwing the ball that many times is what happened to Andrew Luck, and eventually his body is just getting knocked around.
That's a great point. That really is a great point. So that's where we're at right now. In terms of running the football, I don't remember if I said this earlier or not, but they carried the ball 6 times on their first 2 drives, just 7 the last 9. And Doug gave up on the run after the second drive because they only they picked up -3 yards on that drive, and then he got away from it. This happened last week with LeGarrette Blount. He didn't get a 3rd and 1, and he strayed away from the run. So we're seeing Andy Reid tendencies. The balance needs to improve. Even if you're not running the ball well, you need to have balance. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I don't think Doug Peterson is going to get fired this year. But when you are your own offensive coordinator, that essentially means you don't have an scapegoat. You can't fire the offensive coordinator to kind of save yourself a job. If you're the offensive coordinator, you've lost one line of defense, and you can't say, "Oh, well, our quarterback's not very good," or our quarterback's old. You have a good quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think Doug Peterson will be fired this year. I don't want that to be the message I'm giving here. But if you continue to run the ball so infrequently, it's very realistic that he's going to be on his way out here.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's crazy because I always kind of preach patience with the new head coaches. If things aren't going well immediately, I'm like, just wait it out. Just give them a chance. Doug Peterson is different. It's just different with me. I didn't like the hiring from the beginning. I never had faith in him. I don't know. Is there something wrong with me?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll use a perfect example. Marvin Lewis is the second longest tenure coach in the NFL, and the reason he is because he always had an scapegoat to fire to say, "Oh, well, it was that coordinator's fault," and then everyone said, "Okay, well, we'll give you another year." You don't have one there in Philly. So again, do I think Doug Peterson should be fired at this rate? No. But if we don't see the ball, if we continue to see Carson dropping back 46 times a game, either Carson's not playing all 16 games, or he's going into the Hall of Fame, or Doug Peterson's fired. One of those 3 options will happen.
Oh, man. Yeah. When they hired Doug Peterson, I immediately thought of Jim Tomsula in San Francisco. That's what I thought of. That is exactly what I thought of. And obviously, the Eagles have some more talent than San Francisco did. But if we continue to see an offensive imbalance, 3rd and long turnovers like that, I mean, that's a tendency of Doug Peterson. Andy Reid was all over that. He knew the screen was coming. He knew it. He was all over it. So that's about it for this one. Until next week. Until Saturday, actually, with our picks.
Yep.
Our picks this week. So you're a game up on me now. You are a game up on me. I got you with the Eagles, so unfortunately I got you with the Chiefs.
Right, because I picked the Eagles. You did not.
So I wish I would have lost. But,
yeah.
But yeah, you were all over the Titans. Jaguars laid a dud. So, and I believe the other one was Carolina. I took Carolina -8, 9-3. Oh,
yep. What a barn burner.
What a barn burner. All right, that's it for this video. We are out. Brendan Albert, I'm Adrian Fedke. Take care.
Appreciate it, guys.